Seaworld Entertainment is one of my favorite amusement park companies of all time. In 2020, they shocked the amusement industry by adding a major investment such as a coaster to each and every one of their major parks. This brought record-breaking additions such as Iron Gwazi, Pantheon, Emperor, and so much more. On top of this, the same exact thing was also rumored to be happening again in 2021, with a major addition coming to every single park. Seaworld's future was looking so bright, and it looked like nothing could possibly stop their growth and success. Until the pandemic hit, and now Seaworld's future looks very different. As of when this video is being recorded, some of the Seaworld parks are still not open yet, and from my experience, the ones that are seem somewhat unprepared and are definitely understaffed. And to make things worse, several liens have been filed against the company for unpaid capital for the 2020 investments, one for Iron Gwazi, one for Emperor, one for Icebreaker, and a few more. This most likely puts the opening of these attractions at risk until Seaworld can pay, and it definitely puts excess strain on the company as a whole. So in this video, I will be taking an in-depth look at Seaworld Entertainment while talking about their current financial situation. So join me as I answer the question of will Seaworld go bankrupt? But like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I post new videos every week and I truly appreciate all the support that this channel has been getting. Now normally my videos are on a much more positive note, but Seaworld's financial troubles is something that truly needs to be talked about. And I know a lot of coaster YouTubers have already talked about this, but I want to let you know that in order to make my video as unique to my channel as possible, I purposely didn't watch any other YouTube videos on this topic. So this video is entirely original to my channel. Last year, when the Seaworld 2020 announcements were made, everyone was extremely optimistic and super excited for the company's future. Seaworld was rebranding their image as a thrill ride company rather than one that solely focuses on animals. Adding all these huge capital investments was a huge risk for Seaworld, but nevertheless it was a calculated one. Seaworld would have never added all these major investments if they didn't think that it would be profitable for them. But absolutely nothing would have prepared them for what happened next. Before the pandemic, people were already comparing Seaworld to Six Flags before they went bankrupt. Six Flags was dumping as much money as possible into their parks with the hope of getting it back in the long run. But the thing I want to stress is that Seaworld is not Six Flags. Seaworld's strategy may be similar, but it would have turned out very different without the pandemic. Like Six Flags, Seaworld wanted to see an increase in attendance, but their goal was actually attainable. Because of Busch Gardens Tampa's geographical location, I believe that Iron Gwazi alone would have increased Busch Gardens attendance by a ton. It definitely would have been a worthy investment and probably would have paid off fairly quickly. But unfortunately that didn't happen, and it looks like all of Seaworld's investments won't quite turn out as expected. So Seaworld, along with many other businesses, are most likely going to be losing a large amount of money because of the pandemic. This is a pretty well-known fact, but recently something came up that caused a lot of talk in the coaster community. This is the fact that Seaworld has multiple liens filed against them by companies including RMC, Premier Rides, and a few others. Now I'm going to try to simplify this into one sentence. Basically, Seaworld owes companies millions of dollars and they haven't paid. That's it, as basic as possible. Now these liens are causing quite the debate in the coaster community, with some saying that this could possibly bankrupt Seaworld. And I just want to say for the record that I think these liens will not bankrupt Seaworld. If Seaworld were to go bankrupt, it definitely wouldn't be because of the liens. I'm not an expert, but if I had to guess, I would say that even if more liens appeared, they would probably add up to more than $18 to $20 million, and Seaworld can definitely pay this. I tried to find as much information as I could of to why Seaworld is not paying companies what they owe them, and I simply couldn't find that much information. If I had to guess, I'd say as terrible as it sounds, Seaworld is most likely strategically withholding their funds as long as they possibly can. Maybe they are waiting until more of the parks are open for longer so more funds are available. But even if they pay eventually, it might have lasting consequences for the company, even after this whole nightmare is over. Let me explain. Imagine for a second that you are RMC or Premier Rides, and you promise to build a roller coaster for Seaworld. Seaworld pays you some money up front, and then they promise to pay you the rest after you finish building the coaster. Then you finally finish building the coaster, and Seaworld doesn't pay you the other $3.5 million they owe you. If Seaworld did this to you, you most likely wouldn't necessarily want to do business with them anytime soon. So instantly the question that comes to mind is, will companies like RMC and Premier Rides stop working with Seaworld? If this happened, it would be very terrible for the amusement industry and Seaworld as a company. This is very concerning, so I tried to think about this as much as I could. But after thinking about this for a while, I came to the conclusion that I don't think they will necessarily stop working with Seaworld, because if they did, they would be losing a major customer in their business. And if you know anything about business at all, losing a major customer is a very bad thing, and it wouldn't be a wise move for either RMC or Premier. But with that being said, I do think that RMC and Premier will be more hesitant to work with SeaWorld in the future, and they would most likely negotiate for more money upfront before building a coaster. Many enthusiasts, including myself, aren't exactly sure how it works when buying a coaster. I'm assuming that there is an initial down payment and the rest is paid over a period of time, but I could be wrong. So I don't think that these liens will bankrupt SeaWorld. I think that SeaWorld will eventually pay, but the fact that they haven't shows us that they are in some extreme need of cash, and I have a theory about where it's going. I had the opportunity to visit Busch Gardens Tampa, my home park, on only its second day back open. I was extremely excited to go back, especially because I can't even remember the last time I got on a coaster. But when I went, I couldn't help but notice that the park was extremely understaffed and the service was lacking. I could make an entire video on this, but for now let me just say that SeaWorld and Busch Gardens are definitely having a hard time getting back into the hang of things. At one point, I went to ride Kumba, which was basically a station wait, and I ended up waiting 30 to 45 minutes. The thing is that they were only running one train and only loaded it up with 5 to 8 people at a time, and at one point they dispatched a train with only 3 people on it. And add this to the fact that they do routine sanitation every once in a while, and what would have been a 5-minute wait took 30 minutes. They eventually put another train on later in the day, but from my one experience, it took way too long. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand that they are doing this because of social distancing, but I really hope that the operations improve. So I think SeaWorld is taking the money that they would have paid to RMC and investing it into infrastructure for them to open up the parks. Opening up the park smoothly would in the long run produce the money to pay the liens. And luckily, from what I can tell, the longer the parks stay open, the better their operations become. I heard that Seaworld Orlando's opening day wasn't the greatest, but now only a week later it's supposed to be much better. And the same can be said with BGT. Even only one day after I went, the operation supposedly improved a lot, and it's even better a week later. So I believe that SeaWorld is trying their hardest to get back into the groove of things. Once the parks go back to somewhat of a normal operating schedule, things will be better for SeaWorld and it will give us all peace of mind. Because let's face it, the longer that the parks stay closed, the bigger the financial hit the company will face. If the parks continue on the route of reopening, I definitely don't think that they will go bankrupt. But with that being said, if they have to close again for a second time, or certain parks don't open until 2021, they're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Now, a huge concern to coaster enthusiasts is a question of will the new for 2020 attractions be pushed back until 2021? For enthusiasts like me, this would be pretty bad. Not having the chance to ride Iron Gwazi and Icebreaker this year would be a huge disappointment. But personally, I don't think that will happen. SeaWorld CEO Mark Swanson suggested that some of the rides planned for 2020 may be delayed until 2021. This would maximize attendance when the theme parks are allowed to run at full capacity. But the key word in that sentence is the word some. I believe that there are some attractions that will indeed open this year, like Icebreaker, Iron Gwazi, and Riptide Race. Those are some of the rides that I think are most likely going to open this summer. Personally, considering the fact that the Florida parks are open all year, I simply couldn't see these finished rides just sitting there until 2021. And add this to the fact that the Florida amusement industry is very big and it makes a very compelling argument. On the other hand, the ride that is in the most danger of not opening at all this year would be Pantheon. At this point, who knows when BGW will finally open up, and the later they open, the better chance that they will just hold off on this ride until 2021. And if they hold off until 2021, this could put the fate of the Giga Shuttle coaster in jeopardy for a year or even forever. Emperor, on the other hand, is about a 50-50 split. There's a very good chance that it could indeed open this year, but that all depends on when exactly the park opens. But there's always a chance that they will wait until 2021, and if they did this, it would almost certainly be to boost attendance in the following year. So if this is disappointing, we shouldn't be too mad at SeaWorld, because they're most likely doing what's best for the company. I mean, personally, I'd rather have them delay a 2020 attraction than them go entirely bankrupt. So to conclude, SeaWorld is most likely not going to go bankrupt. They may lose an excessive amount of money, but I believe they have what it takes to hold on and make it through this. Even if SeaWorld is in the worst financial shape possible, I believe that there's a lot more things that they can try before they went completely bankrupt. For example, one 2021 attraction that I think could be pushed back a year would be the 2021 San Diego Sesame Street. If SeaWorld really needed cash super badly, I could see them definitely pushing this back a year or two. So SeaWorld going bankrupt doesn't really worry me at all. I think SeaWorld will eventually pay off all their liens and all the debt that they have, but I think they will do it in a specific order. For example, I could see Iron Gwazi's and Icebreaker's lien being paid off fairly soon, because the park might have the intention to open up the ride. And unlike a lot of people, I honestly believe that it's very possible that they will open up these rides very soon. If I had to randomly guess, I would say Iron Gwazi will probably open on July 31st, and Icebreaker sometime in August. I'm most likely wrong, but I think it's very possible. So I don't think SeaWorld will end up going bankrupt at all. They have a great company, and it was just hit a little too hard by the crisis. It's not going to be easy, but I do think that they will eventually get through this and be the amazing company that they used to be and arguably still are. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see content just like this every week, and comment below your thoughts on SeaWorld. Do you think that they will go bankrupt? This is the Coaster Josh, signing out.